Explain to you, a good portion of the meeting is going to be in executive session because it is personnel related and it cannot be discussed in an open session.
Mr. Chairman, with respect, it's been 3 months since we had a regular meeting. Can we allow more open public comment in the first part and be obliged to stay a little later to complete our executive session?
I would reserve comments to our agenda, sir. We have a full meeting here of getting critical police personnel issues squared away. If we've got to run 2-3 hours on our next meeting, then so be it. But it just...
It'll probably be canceled.
Excuse me?
It'll probably be canceled.
Someone have a question about tonight's agenda?
No, I just have public comment. I'm just waiting politely for my turn.
About, does it have referred to this meeting?
Absolutely.
Certainly, go right ahead, sir. Your name, please?
My name is Steve Bueller. I live over on Willowbrook Farm Road. I just want to be here and show support for our police department, the chief and his officers, all the way through the ranks. And I am strongly in support of the school resource officer, and I hope that that continues to move forward with no issues. I have 3 children. They're already in the school systems, and one more is coming soon. And I'd like to hope that they remain safe. I think the SROs, in light of everything that's going on in the world today, is really important. And I'm strongly encouraging that that stay in there and move forward. And those positions get filled. Thank you.
Any other public comment concerning tonight's agenda? Yes, sir.
Colin Heffernan. My question relates to your comment that all personnel decisions have to be handled in executive session. Does that mean specific discussions about individual applicants or individual police officers, or does that mean the question of whether or not to fill a vacancy is also, so is the basic question of whether or not to fill a vacancy subject only to executive session, or would that also be open to public comment?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. We
Okay,
have vacancies that we're going to try and fill.
Right, is the question as to whether or not those vacancies should be filled? Well, say someone retires from the police force.
Correct.
And we're down an officer.
Correct.
The question as to whether or not that officer needs to be or should be replaced, is that a question that is solely for executive session, or should that be a question that is up for public comment and debate?
Right now, the police force is authorized by their budget at 25 officers. We are currently down 4 officers.
Correct.
So therefore, we have a huge hole that we're trying to move forward to get more officers back on board.
But shouldn't the question as to whether or not there is in fact a hole, or if there's an opportunity for cost savings, be open to public comment and debate?
Well, that's more of during the budget season, I would think, than at this point in the process. That all is predicated by what funds are allocated to us by the Board of Selectmen, by the Board of Finance, and ultimately by you, the voters, when you go and vote on a budget.
But doesn't that presume that all the funds need to be spent?
Not necessarily, but right now, we have these vacancies, they need to be filled. We can have discussions at some point down the road as to whether we need them or don't need them, but
Why not now?
First of all, it's not on this sheet of paper. We cannot add an item on a special meeting.
You don't
The
think...
only thing that we can do is discuss what's on this paper tonight. There's no varying from that. A regular meeting of the commission, we can add items and discuss them at a regular scheduled meeting. This meeting is a special meeting because we've had difficulty for quite some time coming up with a quorum of commissioners to address some of these issues because of the summertime, people traveling for work, people on vacations, etc. That's the reason for the timing of tonight. I hoped to do this earlier, but we couldn't get, plus we also just had a new commissioner appointed. That took a significant period of time with the Board of Selectmen. For whatever reason, it did. And I felt that discussions such as you're asking us for would be best to have when at least a full commission is available. Now, whether any individual person can make it or not, I don't know. The gentleman that was appointed to the commission already had a business trip planned well in advance of him even being put on the commission. So unfortunately, he's not here tonight. But I wanted an opportunity to have a full commission to do some of these things, or at least an opportunity for them to be here. As it is, we're down one of our other commissioners, Commissioner Burnham. She also had a conflict, so we have 5 out of 7. But we can't wait any longer on these issues if you still expect us to provide 911 services.
So am I correct in understanding that the discussion as to whether or not the resignation should be filled at all will not be discussed in the executive session?
Point of order, isn't public comment specifically comment, not debate?
No, I'm asking a question.
No, it's, public comment is comment, not debate.
I cannot guarantee you that the phases of the moon won't be discussed behind executive session. We're going to stick to this agenda, and that's all I can tell you. Now, if one of the commissioners wants to discuss something of that nature, they can discuss almost anything they want in an executive session, as long as it's pertaining to personnel, which is what is on this agenda.
Then my comment would be that that is a dangerous blurring of policy and personnel discussions for executive session.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments? Yes, sir.
Kevin Shea, I live in Azalea Way in Old Saybrook, and I'm just here to support the police department as well and the wonderful work that they do. I'm concerned about the issue that you have on the agenda tonight is a personnel issue, and I just want to make the commission aware that there are a lot of us that feel very strongly about the school resource officer. It's a very positive thing. I have 2 kids in the school right now. It's an extraordinarily positive thing for our town and for our kids and for public safety. And you know, while it may not, unfortunately, keep folks safe in every circumstance, I think that in light of some of the events that have occurred around the country and here in our own state, that God forbid anything like that were to happen, we'd at least want to feel like we've done something. And so when you're considering your personnel issue tonight, please know that I speak for a lot of other dads and moms. Unfortunately, some of them couldn't be here today because of vacation plans.
One of the reasons for trying to get this meeting done as quick as possible and through a special meeting is because we are very aware of a very limited time frame to provide us time to provide SROs in every school, should this commission decide to do so. That's up to the commission. I'm just the chairman, I kind of run the meeting, but we have 5 commissioners here that will make that determination tonight. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Okay, you speak about expediency and how important these issues are to these concerned parents, and yet you haven't had regularly scheduled meetings since April? I mean, that just blows my mind. I mean, you can't get a quorum. I believe you have some really important issues in front of you, and you just can't seem to get it together and meet. So therefore, I really rather doubt the
Is your
sincerity.
comment about the agenda, ma'am?
Yeah, well, yeah, you have to act quickly on that. You couldn't have acted quicker.
Is it on the agenda you're concerned, ma'am? If you'd like to bring this
But
up
you
at our
just
next
got-
regularly
you said-
scheduled meeting, I'd be happy to hear about
The
it.
gentleman said to you, and you act so concerned and so sincere, yet you don't.
Thank you for the comment, I appreciate it. And it's duly noted, but there's been a lot of reasons why things haven't happened sooner. Much out of our control. Any other comments, please?
I just have I
Yes.
just asked a question. When did Officer Piaco and Officer Smith leave? Or I guess resign, or whatever they did? Do you know the dates of that?
I don't know the dates off the top of my head. Officer Smith,
I believe that would be part of the chief's report.
you'll have that in your report too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm only asking because school's right around the corner, and if it was that dire of a need, I really do wish that you guys could have been able to get it together to meet sooner. That's just my comment. Kids should be our
The chief
priority.
will, and when he gives his report, under administrative, there's a personnel report, and he will let us know that.
Thank you.
I'm not sure exactly when it was when Officer Smith left. I know Officer Kiyako left quite recently, so.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments? Thank you for your comments. Move right along to executive reports, please.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So the first thing on the agenda are, unfortunately, the report of employee resignations. So Patrolman Smith left employment with us. He notified us on May 21st that he would be resigning from the police department after 14 years of service with the town. I think it's actually a little bit less than that. I do have his email that he sent to everybody as his letter of resignation, and also a copy of his exit interview. Pass that out for everyone to see. So as you know, prior to that and reported at the April meeting was the resignation of patrolman trainee Sarah. So that left us down 2 positions. At that time, one of our school resource officers, Patrolman Tanner, had expressed severe interest, significant interest in going full-time. So we immediately publicized the posting of an SRO part-time position, so that process began. Only, I'd say maybe a week and a half ago, did we sadly learn that Patrolman Kiyako would be leaving full-time service. He's actually requested to stay on as an extreme per diem basis, which we can talk about a little bit later. But he has accepted a position at Electric Boat as a senior supervisory engineer. So he could not counter the offer that he received from the UP. So he will be obviously sorely missed, especially in his position at Goodwin School. Thankfully, we already had that SRO position, that process going. So we were able to expand that incoming process, which again, we will talk about a little bit later. And then very recently, while I do not have a letter yet, because he's on vacation and out of the country, Patrolman Forte, after almost 2 years of service, has decided to return back to the banking industry, the financial industry. Again, a package we could not come close to matching. So we are currently down 4 full-time positions. Patrolman Kiyako is actually still on the books for, I think, another week. And Patrolman Forte will be on the books for another 3 weeks. So he has not yet completed his exit interview because he hasn't exited the department yet. And Patrolman Kiyako, again, has shown a desire to stay on as an extreme per diem basis, especially until we get back up to full staffing levels. So he's not completed an exit interview because he's not actually exiting.
I was like, extreme per diem means as little hours as possible or as many hours as possible?
Yeah, so our per diem officers, maybe 1 to 2 shifts a month they work, but their availability helps us out when they can. Obviously, paying a per diem officer, we pay them at straight times, that's time and a half for a regular full-time officer. So they are extremely helpful. They're also helpful at our critical incidents, so it's another pool of, another cadre, if you will, of per diem officers that we can call in. So with Patrolman Kiyako, there's someone that we've invested some significant time, education, uniforms in. So if he's still willing to stay on and still serve the town in some capacity, that does benefit us.
I agree, but my question is, when he says extreme per diem, does that mean he wants as few hours as possible or as many hours as possible under the per diem regime?
I think he needs to get into his new career
Yeah.
and see where that's going to take him, and hopefully that's still a fit for him. But obviously that's his personal choice.
Okay.
But at this point, he's hoping to do that. And finally, Sergeant Mercer, who as you know retired as a sergeant, then came back as a per diem patrolman, is retiring for the 2nd time. His Social Security has officially enacted, so it does not financially benefit him any longer to stay with us on a year-round basis as a per diem officer. So those are the employee resignations that I have to report to.
Okay, this time I'd like to go into executive session.
Do you mind if we talk about the per diem dispatch process?
Oh, sure. I didn't realize it was-
Oh,
yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sure.
So we began a per diem dispatcher process. Again, our cadre of per diem dispatchers has shrunk over time because they backfilled some full-time positions, so we're looking to build that back up again. Again, they save us money, and if you remember in the budget document, we actually forecast that 50% of all the backfilling of shifts will be filled by per diem employees and 50% by the full-time staff at time and a half. So not keeping that cadre of part-time or per diem employees up to snuff kind of affects that budgeting forecast. So I'd ask the lieutenant to just briefly report on that process.
After advertising for the part-time per diem position, 9 people applied for the position. We conducted the written test at the station, and 5 people passed the written test, and we have oral interviews scheduled for August 10th.
So that is the status there. We're not sure when that process will conclude. Obviously, we have to time it with state certification to become a certified dispatcher in the state. And then in addition to that, there are 4 separate certifications. We'll be in the process very shortly of switching over to the new 911 system. So it clearly doesn't benefit us to train anybody in the old system and then a couple weeks later in the new system. So we'll wait for those things to happen. But as you know, the process is a little lengthy. After the regular interview process, there's a thorough background investigation and medical exams that they'll have to go through. So I will keep the commission updated as that moves forward. Before you go into executive session, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would request is that whoever makes the motion, that I, Lieutenant Roach, and the commission clerk, Jennifer D'Amato, be allowed to stay in the executive session.
Can I just, quick question?
Sure.
Chief's report before we move on, just to make sure I have my head wrapped around it. Currently, on the books, there's 25 full-time sworn officers, but you've never really had 25, if I have that right. Currently, you're at 21, and you're also short your part-time per diem folks as well?
Correct.
And there's a lot of the construction and stuff in town that requires your support on the street road jobs, that's continuing at its crazy pace?
It is, so we've seen a couple of dips here and there. And again, that's non-tax dollar money, that's all.
Oh,
paid
I
for.
understand, right, no, but I'm just in terms of your personnel.
Yes. And when you say I've never had 25, we've been authorized 25 full-time since I've been police chief, but due to either retirements, resignations, or injury or illness, we've never had 25 full-time, healthy employees ready to go.
And the SROs are the 3 part-time positions on top of that 25.
I'm asking that we backfill the full-time SRO position with a part-time position, and you'll see that that financially benefits the town, both the operation and fiscally.
At this point in time, because we're so short of officers. So that the officer who now is an SRO officer, she is a certified officer. She is interested in going full-time. If we decide to hire her full-time, that's going to leave open an SRO officer position. By backfilling that at this point in time with an SRO part-time at-will officer, that will give us more of her time to fill in some of these other slots for the time being. If and hopefully we'll get to full-time status with everybody sooner or later, and then we can revisit putting one of the full-time officers back in one of the schools. Yes.
So that I'm clear, we have currently, in the previous discussions that we have 2 per diem school resource officers.
Correct.
And 1 officer, sworn officer, who was assigned to the Goodwin School as,
SRO.
that was his
Assignment
for assignment.
academic year.
Right.
So
Yeah,
he did part of his job was SRO, part of it was
Right.
regular patrol.
But now, we're looking at having 2 full-time SROs, and then a 3rd?
No. So the plan is this. So let's back up for a second. So we have to remember, first of all, how long it takes to bring a new officer on. So from the time the commission chooses to hire somebody, we obviously have to find a seat for them, either in the main academy in Meriden or a satellite academy. Best case scenario is that they go to Police Officer Standards and Training Council in Meriden. That's a 26-week commitment. When they graduate from the police academy, there's a mandatory 10-week FTO period. So whoever you hire does not become a personnel asset to the town of Old Saybrook until 36 weeks following the first day that they go into the academy. So for example, there's an academy class that's starting December 31st. Whoever attends that academy will not become a personnel asset to us until after Labor Day. It's a significant amount of time. Municipal budgeting happens from July to June. School years happen from September to June. Sometimes in municipal management, we have to go beyond the 12 months of the fiscal year and look at a bigger picture. We've done that with our vehicle leases, we're doing that with buying consumables in the town. Sometimes we have to do that with personnel. So currently, we're down 4 people, and there's a possibility that we'll see another retirement probably in the next 4 to 5 months. Being down that many full-time employees, I do not have any full-time assets to continue the current model of 2 per diem part-time SROs and 1 full-time officer assigned there. I believe very strongly in the school resource officer program, as everyone on the commission knows. So I thought, how do I continue that program uninterrupted while still being fiscally responsible and not affecting the primary mission of the department? So the way I did that was expanding my idea that got us to the 2 part-time SROs and 1 full-timer, which was going back from my initial plan, which was voted down by the commission, of hiring 3 full-time officers to be school resource officers. We did 2 part-timers and 1 full-timer. All I'm doing is saying, instead of that 1 full-timer, because I just don't have that person right now, let's replace them with a part-time person. So it takes the entire school-based policing program out of any full-time officer's responsibility and has that assigned to 3 per diem officers. While the operation goes on and we continue to build up staffing back to our authorized level. Once we are at our authorized level, and as we do every single year when we go through the budget process, we look at our staffing. We look at where we want to put our monies, where we want to put our priorities, formulate a budget, and pass that to the Board of Selectmen, who then passes that to the Board of Finance, then passes that to our community. So overwhelmingly, the community has supported the school resource officer program. I want to keep the program intact, and I think that this is the most operationally sound and fiscally sound way to do that is with a part-time employee that comes with no long-term liabilities to the town.
Answer my question, thank you.
Any other questions? I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session with the chief, lieutenant, and clerk being included in that.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we are now entering, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. We're now going to enter executive session to deal with personnel issues. I would ask everyone, other than those on the commission or the 3 people mentioned, to please clear the room. If anyone wants to stay, we will let you know when we're back into regular session. We have to be in regular session to actually make action on anything we discussed in executive session.
Upon the completion of the application process, that there are certain components pending at a time that fits the operational needs as determined by the chief.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So moved.
Patrolman trainee.
Thank you. Sorry. Patrol training.
Got it.
I'd like to further make the motion that we promote Stephanie Millardo from dispatcher to patrolman trainee upon the completion of her process and completing the pieces that she is missing at a time at the chief's discretion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we hire Lawrence Rooney and Stephen Crawley as per diem SRO officers.
I'll second that.
Can they be one motion?
That's fine.
Okay, sorry.
Just
Just
could be
want to
2.
make sure.
Any further discussion?
Upon the completion of their process at a time determined by the chief, if I can amend that.
What he said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's getting late. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved.
I'd like to make a motion that based on the results of the promotion process, we authorize the chief to hire in the order of finishing that process, that it being Stephen Hackett first and Phil Ciccone at a later point in time, based on the operational needs of the department.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Okay, I think that takes care of the personnel issues for this evening. Okay, once again, there's opportunity for public comment. I'd like to restrict that to tonight's meeting agenda, please. Once again, we will be having a regularly scheduled police commission meeting August 24th, at which time you'll have any opportunity to speak on any subject that you'd like. Yes, sir.
Real quick, we've all had a late night. I met all the candidates that were outside as we were all trying to kill time. Steve Beeler, Willowbrook Farm. They all seem like great people, great conversations, all of them. Good job tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
No, yeah.
Oh,
First, I want to thank the commission for your time. It's been an incredibly long night. I've been to several of these meetings.
well, I thank you all that waited this long.
This one takes the record, I think, so far. And also appreciate the ongoing support for the school resource officer program and the interest in the effort to hire replacement positions for that. Very much appreciated.
Okay, anyone else? Any other comments? No? Comments from the chief?
Okay, I'll try to be quick. I do have a couple things that I do want to brief the commission on. First of all, I second that. Thank you very much for your work tonight. Grueling process, interviewing, and making those decisions. I do appreciate you keeping the SRO program whole. I think the per diem officer model will work, which will be reviewed annually during our budget process. But I do appreciate your support and the support to fill the vacant patrolman positions. That'll certainly enhance the operation as we see people leave and retire. So thank you very much. I do want to report that Detective Sergeant Heine is still on extended sick leave. During his leave, Lieutenant Roach has been doing a phenomenal job supervising the Criminal Investigations Division. Remember, some time ago, I assigned him to conduct a 90-day review of criminal investigations to tell me how we're best using currently the 3 personnel assets there. If all those assets are needed, how we can restructure criminal investigations, schedule, cover more times, enhance the operation while reducing costs. So he'll be getting that to me in the next couple of weeks, and I'll be able to report that information back to the commission. The department is enjoying the new facility. We are experiencing some warranty-related issues, which is obviously normal during new construction. But just to brief the commission, the flooring in the areas of the detention, so if you figure the entire addition is kind of the detention area, so the epoxy flooring is failing. It's actually bubbling, the bubbles burst, this yellow ooze comes out. Downs construction companies come out, they've been great. Obviously the floor failed. Now they're trying to figure out which vendor is responsible for now sandblasting and redoing the epoxy floor. And we're making some provisions if and when we need to stop using that facility for a little bit, just the detention part and how we would handle that. The engineer has failed some segments of pavement in the parking lot, so some areas will either have to be heated up and re-rolled or additional pavement's gonna have to be put down to fix that. We're working through some quirks, I guess you can say, in our HVAC system. It was installed without any humidity control. Turns out that that's important, especially the last couple weeks. So they've come back to install some new parts and tweak the programming, and we're working with that. We had some doors delaminate, those were replaced. And the flooring in part of the building has a raised access floor, because there was like a basement in the phone company. So they put this concrete raised access flooring system, and on top of that they put plywood, glued plywood on, screwed it down, and then put either carpet or the VCT tile or whatever. We're experiencing this odd thing where every 6 inches there's a bump in the floor. So they're actually coming out tomorrow to saw cut segments of the floor to again determine who's responsible and who would be fixing that. That'll require us to relocate some of our offices for a little bit of time while they fix that. Obviously, we're not ready for an open house. I'm dying to have an open house. I think it's very important that we allow the public in. Those of you that read Saybrook Events saw that we put an article in and showed some pictures to show people what we have, but clearly it's in the town's best interest to fix these warranty issues before we have an open house. So we are eager for that to happen. Again, constantly working with the construction company, keeping the first selectman and the chairman of our building committee in the loop with all of our discussions, and we hope that they all come to resolution soon.
The building committee is still meeting regularly to support you on this?
The building committee is not met.
Define regularly.
As needed, that's what we do.
They haven't met in some time. It seems like a lot of the communications via email with like the chairman and the first selectman and I in the loop with the construction company and some of the various vendors as we're working through some of the issues, but there has not been a public meeting of the building committee in a couple months.
Yeah.
Along with our budget reductions, and I guess we can talk a little bit more in depth when it's an agenda item at the next meeting, our two canine officers, Patrolman Zolkowski and Patrolman Miller, when confronted with the possibility of one of the canine teams being eliminated due to that $45,000 budget reduction that was imposed by the Board of Finance, they came to the table and offered a contractual concession, which was vetted through our labor attorney and signed off on by the first selectman. What's going on is they're reworking how they get compensated for their feeding and grooming time, and it resulted in a $12,000 to $15,000 savings for the town. So we're able to keep both canine teams active, and that was very important to them, important to our staff, so I thank them greatly. The concession only affects them personally and only affects their compensation. I thought that was a phenomenal thing they did, both for the program, for the department, and the town. So again, I publicly thank them. The patrolman hiring process is active. And
It's active right now, it's been active for several months. Currently, the numbers are lower than normal. The process closes on September 1st. We have 87 people signed up right now. Normally, in the past, we've had well over 100 signed up. We still have another month to go. I anticipate maybe another 25, 30, but nowhere near the numbers that we've had in the past. So we'll be having a written test on September 1st, and then the process will continue through there through November to establish a list.
And following the personnel decisions we made tonight, there's still 2 open spots for the fill the 25?
So there's currently will be 1 vacancy
Okay.
if we don't have another retirement.
However, can I
Sure.
for the public's knowledge, because we've all discussed this, any of the officers that go to the police academy will probably not be full-time, on-your-own officers in the town of Old Saybrook till maybe Labor Day-ish time of next year. That's how long it takes to get a spot at the police academy, for them to go through their 26 weeks of training, minimum of 10 more weeks of field training officer. In other words, they ride along with another officer for 10 weeks minimum. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So just so that you're aware that this is a lengthy process at which, even though we're quote unquote getting closer to full staff, it's going to be a minimum of probably a year before any of those officers are actually able to be on their own and out doing their job. So unfortunately, it's an extensive and long process, which doesn't really help with your current day-to-day needs, but it's at least in the process then.
And the only thing I would add is that we do aggressively seek already certified officers to eliminate that 36-week delay. So it's probably be, if we hired a certified officer, Connecticut certified officer would probably be 8-9 weeks of field training, then they're a personnel asset. We've tried to do that. We were successful in finding some, thank God for the school resource officer positions, but we've not been successful other than Patrolman Tanner in finding a certified officer to assume a full-time position.
Any of the candidates that
We took them from that list.
took them?
So remember, anyone who applied that was already certified, we took them and gave them the test.
Okay, so all the numbers you just gave us are yet to be certified?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of a housekeeping thing for the commission. The commission, long-standing practice of the commission is we would have a meeting, and the minutes would go out in your packet for the next meeting and then get approved. We can no longer continue that trend. So what needs to happen is, within 48 hours, all motions have to be publicly posted, and within 7 days, minutes have to be publicly posted. So just so the commissioners know, our minutes will appear on the town website long in advance of your next regular meeting. They're not approved minutes, they're unofficial minutes until the commission approves them. So it's a change in practice for us, but it's the proper way to do that. So Jen and I have we've spoken with the town clerk, and we'll be conforming to that mandate, which we should have been doing all along, and all commissions should do. But we want to certainly be a leader and start doing that properly for the town. So
Do we still get the written ones in
you
our
will still get them in
package?
your packet, just know that it
It's
used to
gonna
be the commissioners
out.
saw them first,
Right.
then they get approved, and then they get published. They're gonna be published in accordance with the law. So people might have lots of things to say about the minutes, but they're not official minutes until you meet at a regular meeting according to our bylaws and vote on it. So just kind of a housekeeping change in practice. And April's minutes in that vein have been posted, and thank you for asking about those. Couple things, you may have heard scuttlebutt of an invoice that went from our department to the Board of Education for graduation. So it used to be a practice where the department would bill the Board of Education for graduation, high school graduation, how many police officers it takes, not to man the ceremony, but to support the traffic function at all the different intersections. We have not done that in a long time. I did it this year because we were short on funds and over budget. That invoice has since been rescinded by me because upon investigating the issue with the Board of Education, what used to happen was it would be invoiced and then included in something called in-kind services. So there's a requirement by the state for the Board of Education to report all in-kind services that the Board of Education receives from the municipality of which the Board of Ed serves. So every year I do a document that shows how much money the SROs cost, how much DARE costs. Sometimes I include at graduation, anything that we do for the school system, that goes into a formula, and the school district used to receive a reimbursement from that. That has since been stricken. They don't receive any money for it, but they're still required to submit the formula. So the town used to use just a standard number every year. Never went up, never went down, even though salaries went up and down, same number. Since I've been in, it's been put on the department head to do rather than just the office of the first selectman or their staff. So we've been giving realistic numbers, and we'll just include graduation in that figure, and that's how the town will document that expenditure. You may have also heard that one of the budget reductions that I did was eliminating traffic direction in the middle school parking lot.
Inside the parking lot, not in the road.
Inside the parking lot. And that was based on the $45,000 reduction. We had asked the Board of Education to pay for that. I thought we had some consensus about that. That turned into an issue that they didn't want to pay for that service. But oddly enough, the morning of that meeting, I met with the superintendent and had a lengthy phone conversation with the chairman to say, listen, staffing has changed here at the PD. I've received some retirements. The CSO, Community Service Officer, line item that pays for that is going to remain whole for the beginning of the year. And we're going to start the service that the parents and the children have become accustomed to, and we'll see how the year goes. So based on retirements and change in status from senior personnel to junior personnel, and a savings of money, I feel we can still meet the $45,000 mandated reduction by the Board of Finance and still provide that service. When I wrote the memo and asked them to pay for that service, we did not have the retirements that we had, and it was a different financial picture. So I'm happy that we're going to be able to do that. The Board of Education has asked the superintendent to look into other ways to handle that. It is certainly not a core function of our department. So directing traffic inside a parking lot, private parking lot, is not a core function, but directing traffic at Main and Sheffield Street in a crosswalk, Old Boston Post Road and Goodwin School at a crosswalk, that is a core function that we will always do. But as we talked previously, the more I can have a community service officer do that does some positive work and enhances the safety, especially of our kids, I'm going to support and do as often as we can, as long as the budget allows. So that's going to start as normal. And kind of the final thing, we've had a couple of critical incidents over the past few weeks. A couple sensitive scenes, if you will, and I really want to praise our personnel. They have performed admirably, as always. And I leave you with this thought. Say what you want about the police department. comment about number of police officers, who they are, personalities and whatnot, you don't truly know your police department until you need them. And 90% of what we do is very private and very personal. And hopefully, 90% of the populace will never see the professionalism that we exhibit during those critical incidents or those very sensitive times. But the commission should know that when those things occur, and sadly they do, that your personnel that you are directly responsible for perform admirably. They are true professionals of their craft, and we are lucky to have them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Comments and or concerns from commissioners? I would just like to take a very short period of time to relay a personal situation recently where I became ill. My wife had to call for medical services from the town, and I would like to thank openly and publicly the police department as first responders with a very quick response, efficient, correct response, and the Old Saybrook Ambulance Association, who responded incredibly quick, highly trained people. I can't say enough about the services that I received from the town of Old Saybrook on a very, very personal level. I know about it, I hear about it, I've seen it, but when you're the patient, it's a whole different ballgame. And I'd like to thank you two gentlemen in your department, and I'd like to publicly thank the Old Saybrook Ambulance Association. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Let's go home.